Stop calling this another rap feud. A rap feud ends with diss records, bruised egos, and a few hot quotes. This story feels colder, sharper, and far more expensive. This story feels like a public image evacuation with security cameras rolling, lawyers whispering, old allies calculating, and one man on the sidelines grinning like a fire alarm that finally got believed. 50 Cent is not moving like a rival chasing attention. 50 Cent is moving like a witness to a pattern that finally became too loud to hide. That shift changes everything. 4 years, 50 Cent and Diddy traded tension, jokes, distance, and suspicion. 4 years, 50 Cent and Jay-Z circled each other through status, competition, ego, and power. None of that is new. What feels new is the timing. Every week brings another headline, another clip, another theory, another resurfaced interview, another awkward silence from people who once looked untouchable. The internet keeps asking one question in 10 different ways. Who knew what? Who protected what? And who started moving first when the lights got too bright? That question is where this story gets dangerous. Not dangerous because every rumor must be true. Not dangerous because every accusation must land. Dangerous because public memory only needs a pattern. And 50 Cent understands patterns better than almost anyone in entertainment. 50 Cent knows that 1 clip means noise, 2 clips mean chatter, 3 clips mean a narrative, and 10 clips in the right order start feeling like a verdict long before any courtroom catches up. 50 Cent has spent years mastering that sequence. Mock first. Repeat second. Frame third. Let the audience do the stitching after that. Now look at the board. Diddy stands in the center of scandal, legal pressure, humiliation, and reputational collapse. Jay-Z appears on the edge of the conversation like a figure nobody can stop mentioning and nobody can fully pin down. Donald Trump enters the frame through pardon chatter and old celebrity relationships. Eminem reappears in old stories about leverage and loyalty. Beyoncé hovers over the discussion as proof of how image, prestige, and institutional approval can transform public positioning. None of those names enter the room by accident. Every name expands the blast radius. That blast radius is the real story. Most competitor videos chase the obvious headline. Most competitor videos ask whether Jay-Z betrayed Diddy, whether Diddy will escape, whether 50 Cent is exposing hidden truths, whether the old industry elite finally lost control. Those questions drive clicks, but those questions still sit one level too low. The stronger angle is simpler and more brutal. This is a story about status evacuation. This is a story about powerful people trying to outrun contamination. Every silence, every joke, every resurfaced clip, every legal statement, every sudden friendship, and every strategic distance move starts looking different once the audience watches the room for exits instead of staring at the fire. Start with 50 Cent, because 50 Cent keeps acting like the loudest man in the story while actually playing the most patient game. A reckless commentator throws random punches. 50 Cent does not move like that. 50 Cent curates pressure. One post makes people laugh. A second post makes people rewind older clips. A third post makes people wonder whether 50 Cent saw the collapse coming before everyone else. That is not ordinary trolling. That is narrative conditioning. By the time the audience asks whether 50 Cent is joking or warning, 50 Cent has already won the psychological first round. Then comes Diddy, the man sitting under the harshest light. Diddy once projected reach, access, glamour, and absolute mobility. Diddy looked like the kind of figure who could survive any scandal through charm, money, reinvention, or sheer force of network. That image now looks shredded. The raw news pile in front of everyone keeps adding fresh layers. Footage, old interviews, claims of long-hidden behavior, discussion of pressure campaigns, speculation about who knew, arguments about who benefited, rumors of a pardon, and now an appeal pushing the idea that this story is nowhere near over. Every new layer makes Diddy look less like a mogul commanding the room and more like the center point of a panic nobody wants to stand too close to. That is where Jay-Z becomes combustible. Not because proof drops from the ceiling in neat little boxes. Not because every accusation deserves automatic trust. Jay-Z becomes combustible because absence creates heat. A loud enemy can be easier to read than a quiet peer. When Diddy falls publicly and Jay-Z remains mostly a silhouette inside public debate, the internet does what the internet always does. The internet fills silence with architecture. People begin sketching invisible hallways between old business ties, old party stories, old lawsuits, old rivalries, old award politics, old label wars, old relationships, and old moments that once felt unrelated. 50 Cent knows that process. 50 Cent feeds that process. 50 Cent understands that a shadow repeated often enough starts looking like a map. That is why the Super Bowl anecdote matters, even if the anecdote sounds smaller than federal headlines. The Super Bowl story is useful because the Super Bowl story gives the audience a template. If a giant stage can become a battlefield for status control, then viewers start imagining that status control exists everywhere else too. If Eminem had to push for 50 Cent, viewers immediately ask what other doors were quietly controlled. If 50 Cent felt boxed out in one arena, viewers start revisiting music release dates, industry alliances, award patterns, and backstage politics through that same lens. A single old story becomes a master key for 100 newer suspicions. The same thing happens with old comments about Jay-Z, Beyoncé, and image elevation. The point is not whether every joke lands as fact. The point is whether the joke creates a frame that the audience can reuse. 50 Cent makes a joke about marriage, trophies, branding, and changed perception. The internet hears something bigger. Public respect can be manufactured, class can be rebranded, and reputation can be upgraded by association. Once that frame enters the bloodstream, people stop looking at careers as pure talent arcs. People start looking at careers as engineered reputation systems. That shift gives every old clip a second life. Now bring CNN footage into the conversation, because timing around footage always acts like jet fuel in stories like this. When the public hears that footage existed earlier, stayed hidden longer, and arrived at a moment of maximum damage, the public does not respond with calm legal parsing. The public responds with instinctive suspicion. Who waited? Who knew? Who benefited from the release window? Who wanted distance before the footage landed? Who suddenly changed tone after the footage dropped? That is the emotional chain. Once timing itself becomes suspicious, every late reveal starts looking less like information and more like choreography. That word matters. Choreography. A scandal explodes one way when the audience believes chaos caused the collapse. A scandal explodes another way when the audience believes invisible hands arranged the collapse. The second version is always stickier because the second version gives the audience a villain system instead of a villain person. Villain systems generate longer watch time, deeper obsession, more comment wars, and more repeat viewing because villain systems invite pattern hunting. That is exactly why 50 Cent's running commentary keeps pulling people back. 50 Cent is not selling a single accusation. 50 Cent is selling an ecosystem. Inside that ecosystem, even throwaway lines become loaded. A joke about shopping. A warning about parties. A comment about being uncomfortable. A memory from one studio session. A remark about album drops landing on top of each other. A laugh about awards. A quick story about who called whom behind the scenes. Each piece sounds small in isolation. Together, the pieces form atmosphere. Atmosphere is powerful because atmosphere does not need courtroom certainty to dominate a conversation. Atmosphere only needs repetition, emotional consistency, and a villain shape large enough for viewers to project fears into. That is why 50 Cent feels so effective in this moment. 50 Cent talks like someone who never bought the legend in the first place. That posture matters. When a scandal hits, the public trusts early skeptics more than late converts. A late convert looks opportunistic. An early skeptic looks prophetic. 50 Cent has spent years building the image of a man who side-eyed Diddy long before the crowd felt comfortable doing that in public. Whether every detail holds up is almost secondary to the role 50 Cent now occupies. In the public imagination, 50 Cent has become the man who kept receipts in the form of attitude. That role gives 50 Cent another advantage. Humor. A serious whistleblower can be dismissed as bitter. A funny enemy is harder to shake because humor lowers audience defenses. People share a joke faster than a legal memo. People remember a humiliating one-liner longer than a procedural filing. 50 Cent understands humiliation as strategy. Humiliation makes scandal feel irreversible. Once a powerful figure becomes a punchline, that figure stops looking omnipotent. That loss of aura can damage a celebrity faster than any press release. Diddy's current image crisis keeps proving that point. A mogul can fight allegations. A mogul can hire lawyers. A mogul can issue statements. A mogul has a much harder time defeating a meme ecosystem that turns every new development into another public ritual of collapse. The raw news around pardon talk makes that even messier. A pardon rumor does not calm the room. A pardon rumor detonates a new argument. A pardon rumor tells the audience that power still exists, favors still matter, and elite relationships still have the potential to distort consequences. Even if the pardon never happens, the rumor alone refreshes the core suspicion driving the whole story. Ordinary rules may never fully apply at the top. And that is where Donald Trump becomes more than a side character. Donald Trump in this frame is not just a former associate or a headline magnet. Donald Trump represents transactional power in pure form. Once Donald Trump's name enters a scandal through pardon chatter, the story stops feeling like a music industry implosion and starts feeling like a larger American power ritual. Fame, access, politics, loyalty, public disgust, backchannel pressure, brand preservation, and survivor outrage all collide in one ugly knot. That knot is catnip for viewers because that knot turns celebrity gossip into a power thriller. Notice what happens to audience psychology at that point. Early viewers click for shock. Midway viewers stay for structure. Late viewers comment for moral positioning. That progression is the secret sauce behind these narratives. Shock gets the first minute. Structure gets the middle retention. Moral positioning gets the comment section working for free. A smart viral script needs all three. Competitor videos often overfeed the shock and underbuild the structure. That is why many competitor scripts feel noisy instead of inevitable. The better move is to let each reveal widen the system rather than simply repeat the same accusation louder. So what system is emerging here? A system where Diddy looks like the visible collapse. A system where Jay-Z becomes the invisible question mark. A system where 50 Cent becomes the running narrator of elite hypocrisy. A system where old stories about blocked deals, staged competition, award politics, and image laundering suddenly feel connected by a single theme: control. Not creative control. Not artistic control. Narrative control. Who gets elevated? Who gets frozen out? Who gets framed as respectable? Who gets framed as dangerous? Who gets sacrificed when survival requires distance? That theme gives the story real bite because audiences already distrust polished empires. Audiences have seen too many institutions fail too many people for spotless branding to feel innocent. When a perfect image sits next to ugly allegations, the image itself becomes suspicious. Gloss starts reading like camouflage. Silence starts reading like strategy. Distance starts reading like preemptive self-preservation. That mood is everywhere now, and 50 Cent keeps exploiting that mood with surgical timing. Look at how 50 Cent positions every public jab. Rarely does 50 Cent over-explain. Rarely does 50 Cent dump a full thesis in one breath. 50 Cent prefers breadcrumbs strong enough to spark collective completion. That is smarter than a full manifesto. A full manifesto can be attacked line by line. Breadcrumbs force the audience to build the maze alone. Once the audience helps construct the maze, the audience feels ownership. Ownership creates loyalty, debate, and obsessive replay. That is the real engine under this entire content cycle. Now factor in the old history between 50 Cent and Jay-Z. Old rivalry content works because old rivalry content lets a modern scandal borrow ancient emotional residue. People do not watch a present-tense crisis with empty minds. People arrive carrying years of diss records, interviews, award debates, sales comparisons, label politics, and cultural mythology. Every old grudge acts like preloaded gunpowder. A modern headline lands on top of that powder, and the reaction instantly gets bigger than the evidence on the table. 50 Cent knows that. 50 Cent knows legacy tension can make a current theory feel ancient, and anything that feels ancient also feels believable. That is why this entire saga keeps resisting clean boundaries. A courtroom story would stay in court. A gossip story would stay in gossip. A political favor story would stay in politics. This saga keeps crossing borders. Music industry. Celebrity marriages. Sports spectacle. Federal pressure. Media timing. Social media trolling. Survivor discourse. Presidential power. Old street credibility. Corporate image management. Every new border crossing increases the sense that the whole machine may be rotten from top to bottom. Viewers cannot look away from a story that keeps getting bigger every time the audience thinks the ceiling finally appeared. Still, the most original lens is not simple guilt by association. The strongest lens is escalation by distance. Watch who steps closer. Watch who steps back. Watch who jokes. Watch who goes silent. Watch who answers directly. Watch who hides inside general statements. Watch who suddenly sounds moral after years of strategic quiet. In scandals involving power clusters, movement matters as much as evidence. The audience reads social movement like body language on a massive scale. That is why Jay-Z's low-volume presence keeps generating so much discussion. Low volume can feel like control. Low volume can also feel like retreat. The ambiguity is exactly what makes the character magnetic in a viral narrative. Then there is the appeal. Appeals are not sexy on paper, but appeals are excellent story fuel. An appeal tells viewers that the fall is not final, the war is not over, and the next reversal may already be loading. That matters because viral narratives hate closure. Closure kills replay value. Open loops keep a story alive. A pardon rumor plus an appeal plus a rival commentator plus a silent elite circle equals a perfect open loop machine. Every piece says the same thing to the audience. Come back tomorrow, because the power game is still moving. Now zoom out even further. Why does this story hit so hard beyond hip-hop fandom? Because the public recognizes a broader fear underneath the celebrity names. The broader fear is that elite systems protect themselves until sacrifice becomes necessary. And then elite systems suddenly discover morality at the exact moment self-preservation demands a purge. People have seen versions of that pattern in politics, business, entertainment, religion, sports, and media. The names change. The pattern remains. That familiarity gives this story resonance beyond fandom. 50 Cent's genius in this environment is simple. 50 Cent never needs to prove the whole system in a single upload. 50 Cent only needs to keep pointing at enough cracks that the audience starts believing collapse was always hiding behind the wallpaper. Once that belief settles in, even weak evidence can ride strong momentum. Again, that does not prove every allegation. That proves something more useful for virality. The narrative terrain has shifted. And once narrative terrain shifts, former giants start defending positions that once defended themselves automatically. That brings the story back to Diddy. The most devastating part of Diddy's downfall is not any single headline. The most devastating part is the way Diddy now functions as a reference point for everything audiences mistrust about celebrity power. Excess, secrecy, access, intimidation, image laundering, protective circles, strategic philanthropy, selective outrage. That symbolic collapse makes every adjacent name more vulnerable. Symbols spread damage farther than individuals. When a symbol falls, every nearby brand starts checking for cracks. Jay-Z sits near enough to that symbolic collapse that 50 Cent barely has to push. A question here. A clip there. A reminder about history. A nudge about who benefits. A joke about trophies. A comment about industry politics. None of that needs to read like a formal prosecution. All of that only needs to keep one possibility alive. Perhaps the polished hierarchy was never stable, only protected. That idea is irresistible to viewers because protected hierarchies always make the public feel cheated. Even Beyoncé's proximity serves a narrative function. Beyoncé in this story is not just a person. Beyoncé represents institutional legitimacy, cultural prestige, curated excellence, and the kind of approval machinery most stars never touch. So when 50 Cent jokes about marriage, awards, and image conversion, the joke lands because the audience sees two stories at once. One story says celebrity banter. The deeper story says legitimacy can be borrowed, and borrowed legitimacy can shield almost anything until the shield cracks. That is why those comments travel. Those comments do not survive because the punchline is funny. Those comments survive because the subtext is radioactive. And once the audience starts thinking in terms of shields, almost every old alliance looks suspicious. Party photos stop looking like nostalgia and start looking like evidence of access. Award shows stop looking like harmless glamour and start looking like reputation factories. Mutual praise stops sounding warm and starts sounding transactional. Silence stops sounding classy and starts sounding calculated. Viral content wins when ordinary symbols become sinister under a new lens. This saga keeps generating that effect over and over again. So what makes a master script out of all this? Not screaming every allegation harder. Not pretending rumors equal convictions. The master script turns viewers into observers of movement, timing, and contamination. The master script says the real headline is not only who fell. The real headline is who started inching away before the public fully understood why. That angle makes every resurfaced clip work harder. That angle makes every quote about old competition feel newly relevant. That angle transforms 50 Cent from petty rival into chaos historian. 50 Cent keeps pushing one warning. When a palace starts smoking, watch the exits before the headlines. Diddy is the fire, Jay-Z is the shadow, and 50 Cent is betting the